Hi, everybody. Welcome back to A Person's Haven. My name is Lindsay. If you're new here, thank you for joining us. Today, we are in the kitchen. We are going to be starting a batch of chicken bone broth. This is my first time making chicken bone broth, and I am hoping to be able to can it so we can have chicken stock on our pantry shelves for the winter months. So a while back, I went to Walmart, and in the discount area, they had day old rotisserie chickens, and they were on sale for $2 a chicken. If anybody knows kind of the price range of the world nowadays, to buy a fresh rotisserie chicken from Walmart hot, you're paying almost $7. And the rotisserie chickens have become significantly smaller, in my opinion. So when I stumbled across this find, I couldn't not buy them. So I ended up buying all of the chickens that were in that discount section, which was 7 rotisserie chickens. I picked the meat off of the bones, and I froze the meat into 2-cup packages. And I can show you a picture of how much meat I ended up getting. Um, I believe it was about all total 10 2-cup packages. And then we had some extra to eat for meals for that week. But what ended up happening is from my 7 chickens, I ended up with a giant bowl of bones, cartilage, and skin. So I froze that, and I am going to take it today, put it in my turkey roaster. I'm going to add carrots, onions, and celery to it. And then I'm going to cook it for 24 hours in the roaster to get out all of the good nutrients that the bones have to offer, really make a good broth, and then I'm going to can that. So we're going to get this into the roaster first. And then a while back, I also bought, looks like July, I bought some fresh whole chickens, and I saved the gizzards out of them. So I'm going to put that in there for some flavor. And then my mother-in-law saved me a chicken neck for some flavor. So we're going to add that into there. And then I have started saving ends and tops of onions for this broth. I don't have very many, but I will throw that in there as well. And this bag will be one that I wash out and save because it was just onions. Those other bags I'm going to throw away because it was raw chicken. All right, so in my freezer, I'm going to get out my celery, and I'm going to get out my onions, or excuse me, my carrots. I actually have a Walmart order on its way for delivery to my house. And in that order, I have onions and garlic, which I will also add into this. But I do have to wait for that order to arrive. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut the bottom of the celery off. And then I'm going to go through any of the tops that have any brown. I'm going to cut those off. But I'm going to leave as much as possible to get flavor. And this celery has been in my refrigerator for quite some time. So it's not celery that I probably would eat fresh. So I'm glad that I am pulling it out to do the bone broth. And I'm going to leave leaves and everything on there, unless they're bad. All right, I'll toss this in the garbage. And then I'm going to take the celery and my carrots to the sink and we'll get them washed. All right, we are here at the sink and I'm actually going to use the bowl that had the chicken in it before because it wasn't raw chicken. I feel okay putting the veggies back in with it. So I'm going to rinse each of these, make sure there's nothing of dirt of any sort on there. So I'm going to wash these carrots really good. For the most part, these carrots are fairly clean. And they don't have a whole lot of dirt or roots still on them. I've had these carrots in my refrigerator for a while, at least a month or more. So it's time to get them used. And most people, when they make this bone broth, by the end of it, there's really nothing left of the veggies. They're all mush. But for me, if there is something left of the veggies, especially the carrots, I think I am going to take them out and eat them. I just feel that it's wasteful to throw them in and just use them for their flavor. If they still are holding a shape, I'm probably going to pull them out and my family will eat them. All right, let's start with the celery. We're just going to kind of cut this in chunks and throw it all in there. And I did change my mind. I think I'm going to keep the skins on the carrots because that's where a lot of the nutrients of a vegetable are in the skin. And I did wash them, so they should be fine. I'm just going to make sure that I cut off anything that's bad. And then I'm just going to cut these into chunks and throw in the roaster. All right, so we have all the veggies chopped. Let me show you. All right, so we have all of the veggies chopped right now, except for the onions, because I'm waiting for those to come from my delivery order. So what I'm going to do next is I am going to fill this with water, and then we are going to turn it on and we're going to let it cook. I'm also going to add a little salt and pepper just for some flavoring, and then we will season it a little more at the end if needed. And I think I'm going to just start with the 2 gallons of water because I want to make sure that as this chicken breaks down, there's room for its juices to fill. And then I also want to leave room for the onions when they get here. So let me grab the lid. we're going to put the lid on this, and we are going to put it at 350 degrees. I'm not 100% sure what the temperature of this is supposed to be at, because I didn't actually do, I've never done this before, and the research that I've done, I can't remember. So I'm going to quick pull up the recipe one more time and see what temperature I should have it on, to make sure it's not too high. And if I do change that temp, I will make sure I let you guys know. All right, stick around. We're going to let this cook. I'll bring you back when we add the onions, show you what it's looking like, and then we will see you in 24 hours roughly, and we'll see what our chicken stock looks like. Okay, at this point in the video, my microphone died, and I did not realize it died while recording, so the majority of the rest of this video is going to be voiceover. But here I am adding some spices to the broth mixture. So I added marjoram. That was a substitute for thyme because I didn't have thyme. I also added some oregano, some basil, some salt, some pepper, and I believe that was it for the spices, minus the garlic that I add in eventually as well. So this is just me adding those spices in to give this broth some flavor. I also may have added some crushed bay leaves as well, but I will definitely put the recipe that I was following below so you guys can follow that. All right, everybody, so our Walmart delivery came. As you can see, the broth is getting this rich dark color. It's starting to smell good, so we are going to add our garlic. And throw it all in. Probably take the two biggest ones. And I'm going to do the same thing, just chop them up a little bit. And then I'm going to go grab some water and top this off. All right, we're gonna let this keep cooking and we'll see what it looks like in 24 hours. All right, everybody, so we are back. It has been over 24 hours. I put this in about noon yesterday, and this is what it looks like today. So as you can see, the bones, the skin have really broken down. The carrots are still whole. So like I said yesterday, I'm probably going to pluck them out and eat them. The celery, some of it's whole, so maybe we'll eat that. I did have to add in more seasoning, so I probably added another tablespoon or so, probably 2 of oregano, marjoram. I also added 2 or 3 tablespoons of basil. I added a bunch more salt and pepper. And then I added some garlic seasoning or garlic powder, just because I didn't think it had enough flavor last night when I tasted it. All right, guys, so I'm going to do a quick taste test of this broth before we start processing it here. Last night when I tried it, It basically tasted like I was eating chicken fat. Um, it did not have much flavor at all. Granted, it was not fully ready to do yet. Wasn't 24 hours. But I'm just going to try a sip of this. You can see it's kind of dark in color. Could definitely taste the chicken, like the oven roasted chicken or the rotisserie chicken, but I think it has the right amount of salt. So I'm going to go ahead and start separating out this, getting the chunks of veggies out, the bones out, and then I'm going to separate the fat, and then we are going to put it in the canner and can it up for winter. So the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to start separating. I am just going to ladle our stock right into this. Might not be the greatest method. I'm getting it on the floor. Okay, so as you can see, we have strained out a bunch of the chunks, and we're just going to put it in this bowl here to discard it. And then we've got the juice left here. Okay, so as you can see here, this cup, you can see the two different colors. So this top layer is the grease or fat that came out of the skin and the bones. The bottom layer is all stock. So what this cup allows us to do is its pour spout is here on the bottom. And so we pour out the stock, leaving behind the fat, and then the fat we will discard because we don't want fatty stock when we go to can it. So we are going to separate out this entire roaster of stock. All right, everybody. So we have our stock strained out. As you can see, there are still some herbs on the top there. So when I go to put it into the jar, I'm actually going to send it through this fine mesh strainer one last time just to get everything out. I did put it back into our roaster and turned it on because we do want this stock to be hot when we put it into our jars. Over here we have our pressure canner ready to get started. All right, so here I am removing the jars one by one. I take them to my sink and I dump the water out. This water was put in there during the warming process to make sure that the jars don't float. I'm then going to bring the jars back to where my broth is, and I'm going to fill the jars with this chicken bone broth. Now remember, I am running it through a fine mesh sieve, which is sitting on top of my canning funnel. And when you fill these, you are going to make sure that you leave about a 1/2 inch headspace. So if you're new to canning, there is a tool that you can get to help you measure the spacing on a jar. But if you grew up canning like I did, you kind of know that a 1/2 inch headspace is going to be at the bottom of where the ring would sit when it is on the jar. So that is how I go ahead and measure mine. When my jar is full, I then take a wet paper towel that I have dampened with vinegar. The vinegar is going to cut through the grease to make sure it's not going to interfere with your seal. You're then going to put a ring and a lid on, and then you're going to place that jar back into your canner, and you're going to grab the next jar and repeat. Carefully put this on and press play. All right, everyone. So the canner just beeped, indicating it was done. We have been at this for, well, it's 10:15 right now. I believe we started the canner at 7:30. So even though it said 25 minutes for canning, in order to come up to pressure, then take the 25 and then cool and depressurize, it took all that time. So we have decided we're going to take our extra juice and we're going to put it through the strainer and put it in this big jar. So hopefully I can do that without spilling it all over. And then once this is out of the way, I'll get the jars out. And we still have a little bit left. All right, everybody. So we are going to unplug the canner. We're going to take the regulator off. Just be careful when you do that. It did splash up a little bit. The pressure was released. So we're going to take this off. We're going to take the top off. And then you're going to pull your jars off. You're not going to tighten the lids. You're not going to touch the rings. You're just going to pull them out. And as you can see, they are still piping hot. You're going to place them on to a towel, because what you don't want to do is put these scalding hot jars onto a cold countertop or a cold table, because you risk shattering your jars. So I'm going to pull these out and then I'm going to cover them up because that's how I was taught to can. You wrap them up and then you just leave them be. You don't touch them. You don't do anything. You just let them cool and you wait for them to seal if they have not sealed already. All right, everybody. So we're going to call it a night. It is pretty late for us in this household, especially when we're up at 3 in the morning to go to work. So we will bring you back tomorrow morning. We will check on these, make sure that they all sealed, and then we will hopefully have 5 quarts of juice for the winter. All right, everybody. So it is the next day. Our jars are fully cooled. We checked them, and 4 of the 5 jars sealed, 1 did not. So I put that jar in the refrigerator this morning. I am going to try to recan that jar, probably in a different jar. That jar may not be good. I'll have to check it. And then I'm also going to can up what was left from last night. So these jars, they are a little greasy on the outside just from cooking. So I will wipe it all down, get them cleaned up before I get them on my pantry shelf. But this is what we're looking at. So far, we have 4 jars of home canned broth, and that will be ready to use in the warm winter months. Thank you everybody for joining me. If you enjoyed this video, please like it. Please subscribe. Please share with your family and friends. Leave a comment if you would like. I would be glad to know what you guys are thinking. What are some things that you would like to see? Hopefully you'll come back next time. While you wait for the next video, I can post another video here on the side for you to watch. But until next time, I hope you all have a good day. Goodbye.